Amarav Goiva Shomeneris Tishat Tvachim. It's 9 Tvachim. Eisvei Rapsimi Bar Chial Rav. How could you say it was only 9 Tvachim? 9 Tvachim is approximately 54 inches, which is like just over 4 feet. That's like very, very short. But yet it says Evan Hoysel of Theminara. There was a set of steps there. Uba Shalosh Mailos She'ala Kainaimid Umeitivus Haneris. If he's up 3 steps high, the menorah's got to be at least 8-9 feet high, not a mere 4.5 feet. Amalei Rav said, "Simiyat, but you're a simi. You should know better than that." Kikamina misvas kanem ulamaila. I mean, from where the branches start coming out of the menorah, it's 9 tefachim. But from the bottom of the base until that point, it's also 9 tefachim. So it's actually a total of 18 tefachim, which is like 8-9 feet. That would explain why you need 3 steps. As we said yesterday, if you want to know, you can go on Shabbat and just have down the menorah there. Sagt more weiter. Ksiv v'haperach v'haneiros v'hamilcha chayim zov hu michlois zov. I believe this is a pasuk in Divrei Yom. Zok the Gemara, my michlois zov. What does it mean? It's michlois zov. Amar vami shekil soy l'chol zov sogur shol shloime. All of the zov sogur, and we'll see what sogur means. But all of the zov sogur that Shloime Melech had, he used up with making the menorah. Actually, Shloime made 10 menorahs. For each one, he needed hevilo 1,000 kikars of. He took 1,000 kikars of. V'chniseyu 1,000 pamim likur, and he heated them up to purify them 1,000 times. V'medei kikar. So basically, he took pure gold. It wasn't pure. He took gold and he purified it by smelting it 1,000 times till it was such a high level of purity that out of 1,000 kikar of zov, he ended up with 1 kikar. Fragt the Gemara, is it so that he ran out? Because it says michloi zov were used up. V'aksiv, we have a different pasuk that says also, I believe in Divrei Hayamim, that v'chol klei mashka hamelech, all of the koisos that the melech drank from, mashka hamelech shloimoi, zov were gold. V'chol klei beis yar halavonin, I assume that means the Beis Hamikdash. Does he touch the word beis yar halavonin?
House of the forest of
Okay. Zov sogur, was zov sogur, ein kesef nechshav b'mei shloime l'mu'uma. Silver was worthless in the days of Shloime. Today it's a little different. Today silver has exploded. Zog to Gemara, Zov Sogur Karmina. Regular gold, there was an abundance of. Zov Sogur, there was a very limited amount. Sogur, Rashi says, means, and I hope I understand it right, Rashi says, whenever someone sold it, I assume it was so high quality that if anybody was selling Zov Sogur, nobody else who sold gold was even able to sell. Is that what it means?
Gold, what's Sogur?
Sealed.
Closed gold.
Right. It means whenever someone put it up on the market for sale, all the gold stores had to close down. I guess because people only wanted this high grade of gold. So the high grade of gold might have been used up, but of course there was so much gold in the house of Shlomo. But even that type of gold, it turned out that the menorah of the Beis Hamikdash was a drop bigger than the menorah of Moshe by 1 dinar. What type of dinar? Kurdikini. It's some type of currency. They put it 80 times into the fire, and that purified it, al kikar, and it brought it down to a kikar. Zok to Gemara, if it takes 80 times to get it down by 1 dinar zov, it would be more than 1,000 times required to purify raw gold. Zok to Gemara, true, but keeping the koi, once it's already on such a high level of purity, it takes a lot more cooking and heating to purify it further. It's called the law of diminishing returns. Ever heard of that before? The first 6 inches of insulation that you put in your house is worth it because it reduces the heat load, let's say, by 90%. Once you add a little bit more, that only tweaks it another 2%. So eventually your returns diminish. If I start off with a very inefficient boiler, yes, I can tremendously increase your efficiency with a better boiler. But if I want to go even more efficient, now it's going to cost a lot more money per efficiency point that I get. So that's how it was there as well. Amar Shmuel by Nachmeni Amar Rabbi Yonasan. My dichsiv al hamenoira hatahira. It says in the pasuk al hamenoira tahira ya'arich esanerish lefnei Hashem. So what does it mean menoira hatahira? Zok Gemara sheyordu ma'isah mimokum tahira. Its ma'asim came down from Hashem, meaning Moshe. We learned had difficulty making the menorah, so Kadosh Baruch Hu sent him with the mushtaleish. It came mimokum tahira. In fact, are you going to tell me that any time it says tar, that's what it means? Ella, you know what tar means? Mechlal shu tamei. It's tar mechlal that it could be mekabel tuma. Hachanami Torah mechlal shi tameya, a menorah could be mekabel tuma. Bishlam hasam. Kidav shlokish. Demer shlokish. Ma'adich said ala shulchan atar mechlal shu tamei. It's kli eitza also lenachasu. It's a kliyetz that's made not to be moved. It's like a built-in bookshelf. The shulchan cannot be moved when it's full. Even when it was fully loaded with lechem upon him, they would lift it up and bring it to the door of the Echel to demonstrate to Klal Yisrael umayim lahem lechem upon him, and they saw the steam coming out of it after it was a week old. Look how Kadosh Baruch Hu loves you. How did by looking at the lechem upon him and the shulchan, what type of chiba from Hashem was demonstrated in that matter? As warm as it was when we were bringing it out fresh from the oven to place on the shulchan, that's how warm and steamy it was when they were taking it out of the heichal as well. Shenemar losum lechem cham b'yom hilakchay. Elahacha tahir mechlashi tmeya pshita. The menorah is made out of gold. Klimatris nenu. Klimatris mekabel toma. So you don't need menorah hatayr to tell you that chiddush. Shulchan hatayr need to tell you the chiddush that they lifted it up. But for menorah hatayr, of course it's mekabel toma. It's a metallic object. Ella, what must be pshat is sheyordu ma'isah mimokum tahira. It must mean by the menorah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed Moshe in the Shemaim how to make it. Tanya Rabbi Yosy Yehuda Omer. The Mefarshim discussed what was so difficult about making it. So they said the difficulty was not making the menorah, is to get the exact weight amounts for all the individual kaftorim and prachim. That was the difficulty. But I think that he was able to do. Okay, Tanya Rabbi Yosy Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Aaron Shalesh, because they said, like in the second Beis Hamikdash, they also had a menorah. How did they have there? They did it. Moshe couldn't do it. How did they do it? Tereshus, they didn't have, although it was miksha, but the exact weight of all of those individual components was not to spec. Tanya Rabbi Yosy Omer, Aaron Shalesh, v'shulchan Shalesh, u'menorah Shalesh, yardu min hashemayim, v'ra Moshe, v'asa k'Moshe. Moshe saw a sample and then he was able to copy it. Shnemar u're'ei v'asei kitavnisam asher ata mara bahar. We're getting into these parshas now. Ela meyata, when it says v'akimoises hamishkan kimishpotoi asher esa bahar hachanami. Are you telling me that Hashem also brought down the mishkan min hashemayim from the copy? That's not mistaber. So no. Ha'aksiv kimishpotoi. Kimishpotoi doesn't mean it was a tavnis eish. Ha'aksiv kitavnisam, that indicates it was a tavnis eish. Gavriel, you know, when you want to show craftsmanship, you have a guy with an apron. Like Fieldgate Homes, you know what their emblem is. It's a guy with an apron, like a carpenter with an apron, right? With his pencil over his ear. So Lennox also has the same emblem of a guy, Dave Lennox, with his apron, it connotates craftsmanship. So Rabbi Yochanan, where did he get it from? Gavriel Chagor Kemin Pisikaya. Gavriel looked like he was wearing like a carpenter's apron. Rashi says, why would they wear these aprons? I'm not sure what Rashi means. Ozer Koruch, like a belt around them. Maybe like in Home Depot they wear these like belts to support their backs. And he says why? Umnim shereitzin lasos malacha noah. If Uman wants to make a good, beautiful job, they wrap themselves in the gartel. Sheyu negorim b'gdeim. So their clothes shouldn't hang out and get in the way of their work. So they tie it around so it's not loose. It's very tight. The Harel Moshe Ma'aseh. So Gabriel had a Mishkan workshop. Come into my workshop, Moshe. We're going to do a demonstration today on how to build your menorah. I think there's some Home Depots that actually have these types of seminars on different things, how to do tile, how to do this. They have, from time to time, they have seminars for the public because they want to train people so people will do renovations in their home. So I think in some areas they actually have a sukkah. They have a sukkah thing. Now that the lighter put them out of business, there used to be people used to build their sukkahs. Zog to Gemara, V'zeh ma'isa menorah. V'zeh ma'isa menorah. He was actually showed that. Tanu devei Rabbi Shmuel. Shoshet devarim ha'yikoshnu leMoshe. There were three things that Moshe struggled with. Hashem literally showed him with his finger. To know exactly when there's enough moon, to know that it's the new moon, just like Rashi refers to in the Mishnah's Rosh Hashanah. They had different siyurim on the wall, so the Dayan was able to point, I think Hillel was able to point out to the Edom that it looked like this, that it looked like that. You see it, you have to understand what it's supposed to look like. And Ushrotzim, and how to identify Shrotzim. Menorah d'chsev v'zeh ma'aseh menorah. V'shchodesh d'chsev ha'chodesh hazeh lochem rosh chodoshim. Shrotzim d'chsev v'zeh lochem hatomei. V'yashoymim afel shchita shenemar v'zeh asher tas al mizbeach. And the Mefarshim will say the shchita is how Rashi mehechon hi mugremes. Hagrama is going out of bounds, meaning either above where the mokam hashchita is or below. The two parashas of mezuzah, ma'akvis Yosuf, afilu ksav echad ma'akvad. Pshita, it's pashat. Amar bidom rav lo nitzucha el kutza shal yud. It's to tell you that you need a kutza shal yud. There's actually a three-way machlokes as to what the kutza shal yud is. It is that the part goes down on the right side of the yud. It is a little shtechel that comes down on the left side of the yud, or is it the little shtechel that sticks up on the top of the yud? V'anami pshita, which makes very much sense because you talk about a yid. There's always three opinions. Right? That's also Pashut. If any ice is touching an ice around it, meaning there's no clean paper around it, clean cloth around it, psula, because it's connected to a letter nearby. What if there is a hole in the center of the hay? The blank spot. That's one shot. There are other people that learn Teicha Shel Hay means the regel shebefnim, the inner leg, is what Rashi learns. Kosher, it's kosher. L'dim avashlo minay Rabbi Yehuda nikev Teicha Shel Hay kosher yerechai. But if it's the yerechai, meaning the regel hayamanis, the big leg, so if it's a small leg, it's kosher. If it's the big leg, if there's still enough left on it, that it's kasher is ketana, kosher. There's actually a machlokes rishonim. If kasher is ketana means in length, so it could be a short leg, but as long as there's a little leg left, then those means it's width. Even if it's very, very thin, just a thin line, that will be kosher. Ramlav Pasal. Igra Chamur de Rabbi. Igra, who was the father-in-law of Rabbi, he had an issue with his kisvei HaKodesh, and Itzika lay kara dehay. He had an issue that on his tefillin, the leg of the hay also was damaged. Which hay? Of ha'am. Rashi quotes, "Vayom Moshe el ha'am Zocher es hayom mezeh asher yitzeitzim b'Mitzrayim. So that had him on. Benikva with a little hole. Also, Rabbi, he showed it to Rabbi. Is my tefillin kosher? Amarei im yishtar b'kishir ois katana kosher. V'mlav posel like we just learned. Rami bar Tamri. Rami, the son of Tamri. Davachamu was the father-in-law of Rami bar Dekuli. Now, there are those who learn that they had the same name. They both Rami, and a Tamri and a Dekuli is the same thing. Right? A Teitelbaum is a Tamri, and a Dekuli is a Teitelbaum. So Rami, the son of Teitelbaum, who married Rami, the son of Teitelbaum. So they actually talk about whether or not you can bring a raya from here, that you're allowed to marry somebody whose father has your same name as you. If you look over here in the Hagarish Sunim, what? Yeah, maybe you have a raya from here. So maybe you have a raya from here. The Rami by Dekule, I'm trying to get it to focus. Oh, here it is. V'cheinu b'ksav yad v'rishonim v'ayin madan liyom tov hilchos evitor simen tezor Yosy u'legirza sholofonov shemois ha'chason v'achoisen ha'yushavin. They had the same name. V'ayin shal shuvas not to be the tiyanah Ebenezer simen tes v'ha'aretz ha'godol miminsk v'shal shuvas marsham. I guess they talk about names there, but clearly Rami Teitelbaum and Rami Teitelbaum married Rami Teitelbaum. See them anyway. They married themselves. Das weiß ich nicht. Aber his father was also Moshe? Really? Also ist es so gut. Ja, geht. In the Okay. Zog to Gemara. Rami bar Chomi da Chamua to Rami bar Tekula. If Sikalei Kaya the Vav, the leg of his Vav in the of the Yehareg got damaged. But Nikv also a hole. Also coming to say, Amalei Zilai Sianuka to the Chacham Volatibish. Bring a child who's not super sharp, but he's not a dope either, and see how he reads this Vav. Does he read it as a Vav, or does he read it as a Yud? Ikri va Yehareg kosher. Eloi, but he pronounces Yehareg, then Yeharegu upasul, and it will be possible. So the question here is, why did they do this by the Vav and not by the Hey before? So there are those who learn that by the Hey there's more to the letter. So Memela, if there's a little leg, it'll be good enough. But you have a letter that it's only that letter, the Vav, it's either a Vav or Yud, there's no other part to the letter like a Ches or like a Shin, there's other parts to it, there you have to ask a Tinuk. But there are those who learn, like I mentioned before, that when we're talking about the Hey being Ifsik, it didn't mean that it was cut off vertically. It means horizontally it was cut off, meaning it was a very thin line. So what it meant earlier when it said, if there's even a little bit Kesheres Ketano, it means it's a tiny little line. But if it's totally cut off at the bottom, you have to come on to the Tinuk. Everyone knows the famous story where they asked the Tinuk to look at a Sefer Torah to see if the letters are right. So he goes with his fingers on the Sefer Torah like this. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, B'shah she'olah Moshe l'morim. When Moshe went up to Shemayim, Matzu l'Kadosh Baruch Hu she'yoshev v'kosher k'sorim l'oisiyos. He was putting crowns on the oisiyos, modifying them. Amar l'fanav Rebbeinu Shalom mima hakavayotcha. Who's forcing you? Your alphabet is perfect. Who's forcing you to add additional symbols on top of these oisiyos? Amar lo Adam echad yesh. There's going to be a person sometime in the future. She'asad liyos b'seif Commodores, Akiva ben Yosef Shemai, She'asid Lidrash al Kol Koitz v'Koitz, Tilin Shalachas, piles of halachas he will learn out of every little detail of her. Amar lefanav Rabbi told him, "Hey Eli, I got to meet this man." Amar lo told him, "Chazor lacharacha, turn around, go back." Halach, he went and he couldn't even get a seat in the front row. Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't get a seat in the front row. Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't sit in first class when his employees sat in first class, right? Beside Shmoi Neshuras, the back behind 8 rows. And he didn't even know what they were talking about. He was sitting and listening to Rabbi Akiva shir, and he didn't chop what Rabbi Akiva was talking about. Tasha's koicha, he felt a little bad. Tasha's koicha, he felt bad. Kivin shigil davar echer. Eventually they got to a different halacha. Amalei Talmid of Rabbi. Minayin lach. How do you know this? Amalei halacha la Moshe misinai. That we learn from Moshe Rabbeinu. We have to be mekabel nisyash v'daitoi. Chazor b'olef ne'Kadosh Baruch Hu. Then Moshe, who was so blown away by Rabbi Akiva, went to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Amalei Rabbeinu Shalom. Yesh loch adam kazeh. V'atanois in Torah al yodi. You have a man like Rabbi Akiva, and you're giving the Torah through me. Amalei Shesoik. Be quiet. Kach ola b'machshala v'lofanai. That was my machshava.
What was the Nisyash V'daita?
Because he said, I do have a good place. These Lamaisa don't need me. It's all based on my Torah. They all learned it from me.
He says he didn't even know it.
I want to get to that in a second. It fears us at the end. So Moshe said, Harisani Torah Soy, please show me his Torah, which you've done. And now show me the schar that Rabbi Akiva is going to have. Turn around, you'll see. They were literally selling his meat that they ripped off of him in the shuk. This is the schar. So this Gemara is begging to be explained. So as Marty mentioned, that in fact, what does it mean Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know? Although HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Moshe all of Torah Shebiksav and all of Torah Shabbat, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not give Moshe is how you see every chiddush of Torah Shabbat from the psukim themselves. Moshe knew all the halachas that the Gemara is going to extract from its diyukim of Torah Shabbat, and that would be Torah Shabbat. Moshe had all that information. What he didn't have was how you saw it from the pasuk. He just knew the maskana, what the halacha was, but he wasn't told alone how you get to it, and that's left to the chachmei adoris, chachamim b'chol dar v'dor. Everybody has a bit of Torah that he could be mechadish. He's not being mechadish halacha. What he's being mechadish, what we're mechadish, what the Rishonim are mechadish, what the Tanaim are mechadish, is the halachas that Moshe taught us. How do you see that within the words of the Torah itself? And that's what Rabbi Akiva had that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have. Now the other question is, what does it mean? Kach also b'machshavti tchila. What does that mean? So by the learning, when he said kach also b'machshavti, is all of these halachas that I had all along, and I gave it to you. That was given to you. But kach b'machshavti tchila was that he should have the schus to bring it out and show where you see these halachas in the Torah Shebiksav by being medayik in the Psukim. Now the end where HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu again, kach also b'machshavti legabe Rabbi Akiva's terrible pain. That's because kach also b'machshavti, when I wanted to make the world, I really wanted to make the world with midas hadin. But when I saw that the olam would not be koyim, I had to change it to midas harachman. But there are certain tzaddikim gemurim, that would be able to withstand the scrutiny of midas hadin, and those that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does deal with them on that high level to bring them up in madregas. So that's what Hashem told Moshe. Rabbi Akiva is one of the yechidim that can handle my original plan to do it within, and that's why he's suffering this way. Is that what he said? What? So what did he say? Right. So Moshe did not get that. And Rabbi Akiva did? Uh-huh. So he had access, or Rabbi Akiva did have access to like an oitzer of Chachma that Moshe Rabbeinu did not. Okay? Gewaltig. Sagt die Gemara weiter. Amar Rava, Shiva Oisiyos, Shricha, Shleisha, Ziyunim. There's 7 Oisiyos that need to have like a crown of 3 heads. And what are those? Ve'elohein shaknis gets, these letters. Omer Abashi, Chazina Lula Sifri Dovkani, the Rav. I saw the Seifrim that are very medactic in the household of Rav. The Chotri Lehu Legagei the Ches. They would be choter the roof of the Ches. What does that mean? It's actually a shayla between one of 4 things. Either the Gag overhangs on both sides, the 2 vertical members, or there's a sloped roof all the way to the top, or or they used to keep one leg higher, one leg lower, or it means that the second leg was not at the end of the letter, it was in the middle of the letter, and there was a long overhang. So that's what the Sofer and the Konim of Rav do, and v'talale lekare dehei, and they hung the leg of the hay. What that means is, Rashi says, Regal apnimi shel hay toli ba'aver v'yidavik l'gagoy. So the left leg is hanging. Yeah. So Zok to Gemara. Chatri lehu l'gagay deches. Why did they do that to the ches? Klemer chai hu b'ruben shalom. Ches stands for chai, and it's telling us chai the Rebbeinu Shalom chai v'kayom lives upstairs. So either one of these things, either the little shtechel sticking up, or the roof on top of the ches, or that one leg is shorter, meaning it's further up. There are simonim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is b'rumei shalom. V'talu lo l'charei dehei k'debeim ne'rebuda n'siyah merami. Ma'adich sev, it says in the pasuk, B'itchu b'Hashem adayad. Why? Ki b'ka Hashem tzoylam. Kadosh Baruch Hu is Yud-Kei. Amalei, we see in this pasuk, anybody who's totally maimin and betuach in the Rebbeinu Shalom, harei loy michsa ba'olam hazeh, Hashem will be a protector. Michsa really means a shelter for him. Ba'olam hazeh ula olam haba. Amalei, this is my problem. My shadich siv ki bika Hashem. Well, let's say ki ka Hashem tzroilam. What's the bika Hashem? It means ki the shabida bar Eloi. Elu shnei olamos Yud K are referring to Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. Shabar Kadosh Baruch Hu Echad Behei veEchad Beyud. Then Yedei Im Olam Haba Beyud veOlam Hazeh Behei, or Olam Haba created with the Yud and Olam Hazeh with the Hey, or vice versa. Im Olam Hazeh Beyud veOlam Haba Behei. Because Reimer Ela told us Hashemayim words Behi Baram Al Tikri Behi Baram Ela Behei Baram. So the Shemayim v'Oretz, meaning Olam Hazeh, have Olam Hazeh Behei. And then by process of elimination, v'Olam Haba B'Yud. Why would Hashem use a hay to create Olam Hazeh? It's very open, like a patio. Or a pavilion, is what the Art Scroll says. Why? Why is it so open? If someone doesn't want to follow the Torah and he wants out, there's plenty of access to get out. It's wide open at the bottom. Why is there an opening at the top between the top and the small leg and the roof of the hay? If he wants to come and do tshuva, he can get back in. In fact, why can't he come in the same door that he left from the bottom? Normally, you're not going to be able to use the same derech that you were mashia with. That's not the derech with which you can do tshuva. You're going to have to find another place. You got to change your friends. You got to change your lifestyle. If it's someone wants to be alet, somebody wants to do bad, Hashem will let him. But Ulav Novim, somebody who wants to do good things, Yitin Chayin, Hashem is going to add to his Chayin. If someone wants to do good, Hashem actually helps him. We'll let him go, but Hashem is definitely not helping. Why does the little leg of the hay have that thing sticking out of it? And there's a question what that's referring to as well. If someone does tshuva on the hay, you have a little thing sticking up to tell you that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make the crown for Baal Tshuva. That's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves the Baal Tshuva. And why is Olam Haba created with Yud? That's Gavaltic. Because there's very few tzaddikim, so it's a small little Yud. And why is there a little stechel sticking down from the bottom of the top of the Yud? No matter how big of a tzaddik you are, there's going to be someone who's a bigger tzaddik. So you're always going to feel bad. If only I could have done more mitzvahs than myself, I could have been a bigger tzaddik. So everyone's a little bit humbled over there. the Tanya Tiyufte. Rav taught me two things when it comes to Safras, and we also learned a contradiction to them. Chada Hada Amar Rav, we're only going to learn one of the things today. Hada Amar Rav, Sefer Torah, Sheyesh Boi Shtei Toyos, B'chol Daf V'Daf. If a Sefer Torah has on every single page 2 mistakes, Yisakin, you can still fix it. But Sholosh, once it has 3 per page, Yigal Neis, that's the Sefer Torah you shouldn't fix anymore. Vitanya, no, that's one shot. Other Rishonim learn, Yisakin means you don't have to passel it before you fix it. Yiganez means you gotta first put a gartel on it, identify it as being passel, until you fix it. Vitanya Tiyufte, and we learned the Bride, this is not like that. Shalosh Yisakin is Arba Yiganez. So it's 4 that condemns the Sefer Torah. 4 mistakes per page. Tanam, we learned, Im Yesh Boi Daf Achas Shalema, if there's one daf complete on the page with no mistakes, Matzelas Al Kulai. Amar Yitzchak Bar Shmuel Bar Marsim Mishmei Derav. You also need that Rav the Sefer should be written properly. So you need 2 conditions in order to allow the pages that are bad to be corrected. A is Rav the Sefer has to be written properly, or Rav the letters, the Shalom Rishonim, and you also need that one daf shouldn't have any mistakes. What does it mean to have no mistakes? Amar Rabbi Yosef, you use Bahu daf, the one with no mistakes. Shorish Torah Ismai, because the Baal Torah to correct them, so you can make them into no mistakes. Amalei, you're right. Hov is Yayiv Luskune Miskin. In the Chanami, since we let you fix it, you could fix it, and that could be the one. What you can't do is take a page with 4 mistakes and fix it, and now say, oh, I have a good page. But you could take a page with 3 mistakes and fix it, and then you can say, yeah, I have a good page. V'hanimili Chaseres. That's only Chaseres. That's only if there's a letter missing, because even if you want to squish another letter in, it won't look nice. Although you say it, but if there's an extra letter, last limbo, you can just scrape it off, and it won't be so noticeable. Because what's going to happen is if you're going to start filling in letters in between the margins, it'll look spotted. Igra, who is the Chamud Rabba, it's funny because we started this Amud as well with it. The last line at the bottom of Chavtes Amud Aleph also is Igra Chamua. It's also about Igra Chamud Rabba. So now again we're talking about Igra Chamud Rabba. Havo Yisera Spisafrei. He had extra letters in his sefer. Also Chamud Rabba. Amalei Le'amerna B'Chaseres. The only time we say you have to condemn a Sefer Torah if it's missing. Havo Yisera. She has extra last lamba. No problem. You'll be allowed to keep it. Okay, we'll stop here.